Welcome to Platelets Unmasked. In this video, we will explore the platelet interior, touching briefly on lysosomes and focusing most of our attention on the contents of alpha and dense granules. Over the next few minutes, we will explore the following take-home points. Platelets contain both alpha and dense granules. Alpha granules carry proteins like von Willebrand factor, fibrinogen, and fibronectin that enhance platelet adhesion. Dense granules contain agonists like ADP and serotonin that enhance platelet activation. Let's begin with a platelet, which is about 2 to 3 microns per diameter. And let's enlarge it until we can get it big enough to peek inside it. Then let's make it transparent so that we can better see inside it. The first kind of platelet granules I will address are lysosomal granules. Lysosomal granules contain glycosidases and proteases. These glycosidases and proteases have no known function in hemostasis. Therefore, for the rest of this video, we will not address lysosomal granules again. The next major category of platelet granules are alpha granules. Alpha granules are the most abundant of the platelet granules and contain proteins that enhance the adhesive process. These proteins include von Willebrand factor, fibrinogen, and fibronectin. The next group of platelet granules are known as dense granules. Dense granules are also known as delta granules. Dense granules are so called because under the transmission electron microscope, they are electron dense. Dense granules contain proteins that enhance platelet activation, including ADP and serotonin. Now let's turn our attention to focus on alpha granules, and let's look even closer at the megakaryocyte to study the contents better. Now when we think of alpha granules, we think about proteins that promote adhesion. Proteins that promote adhesion allow the platelet to stick to endothelial surfaces and to each other. These proteins include fibrinogen, fibronectin, and von Willebrand factor. I've limited alpha granule contents to these 3 examples. However, it is important to note that alpha granules produce numerous proteins that are not listed here, including platelet factor 4 and factor 5, among others. Now that we have discussed alpha granules, let's focus on the other major type of platelet granules, dense granules. As we did with alpha granules, let's take a closer look at the platelet interior to better study the contents of dense granules. Recall that dense granules are also known as delta granules. Dense granules tend to secrete platelet agonists. Agonists are proteins that enhance platelet activation. Examples of dense granule contents include adenosine diphosphate, or ADP, and serotonin. Now I've only mentioned 2 proteins out of the other proteins that dense granules secrete, including calcium, which is important in key steps in the coagulation cascade. This ends our discussion on the contents of dense granules, alpha granules, and lysosomal granules. As we end our discussion on platelet granules, let's summarize the following take-home points. Platelets contain both alpha and dense granules. Alpha granules carry proteins like von Willebrand factor, fibrinogen, and fibronectin that enhance platelet adhesion. Dense granules contain agonists like ADP and serotonin that enhance platelet activation. This ends our video on Platelets Unmasked. We now have a better understanding of the contents of platelet alpha and dense granules.